Alright, so in this tutorial video, we're going to bring in, we're going to apply our Mocap data to our human IK rig. It's going to be pretty sweet. So this will actually work with all sorts of different things, but it'll work here. So anyway, what you want to do first is open up your rig. So I've got this one. It's not really, I didn't finish painting it or anything, but at least the dude's there, so it's just some naked man. Who's that man? Alright, so anyway, there's no animation or anything on it. It's just a typical human IK rig, nothing special. So now what we want to do is I actually want to take our Mocap data and apply it to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to reference it in, because that way I can unreference it and get it back out of there. Otherwise you'll end up with a whole bunch of skeletons in here, and nobody wants skeletons in their closet. So, File. Also make sure that you have that you can bring in FBXs. So I got Windows, Settings Preferences, Plugin Manager, and make sure that FBX is on. So if you scroll down, you'll see right here, Maya, FBX Maya, make sure Loaded and Auto Loaded is on. Alright, so File, Reference, Create Reference, and I am just going to use rights here. So here's his loco, and I'm going to reference it. And if we back this thing up, and if I hit play, you'll see, yay, there's his animation. It's pretty okay. Okay, so it turned out okay. It's not too bad, but I want to take that and apply it to it. So what we're going to do is go to the very beginning. And what we need to do is we need to create a new character definition. So we've been working in this human IK section, and you'll notice that right now it has our character, right? So if I click this, you can see it actually highlights his leg. If I click on this one, highlights that leg. It's another way of being able to select all the pieces. But that's because currently it's on character 1. Choose none. So now it's not this guy specifically. Now what I want you to do is click on this and keep hitting the up arrow so that you get basically the root joint. And then you're going to go ahead and click on Create Character Definition. There we go. So now what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to create to make a one-to-one. So you can see this looks just like our human IK, and we're you're going to notice that there are some extra bones here and some extra bones here, and so on and so forth. So it's not one-to-one. It depends on your Mocap data. Our Mocap dudes look like this, so it should be okay. So in order to apply it, it's pretty easy. All we're going to do is I'm going to double-click on the hips here, and then I'm going to double-click on this. Make sure you click on this one, not here, because there's actually two like hip bones coming off of it. Like, watch. See? There's actually these two. But if I select this one, you can see that's actually the one I want. So that's why make sure you double click on the bone here, because that's the actual hips. Okay. Then I'm going to double click on this. Notice everything else kind of grayed out. And then double click on this. And boom. See how it turned green? If that doesn't work, you can click on this guy. And then right click over top of this joint and just go assign selected bone. It does the same thing. Now you can see we have 1, 2, 3 here, and I only got this one dude here. I'm just going to take this bottom one because that's clearly the heel. That's the ankle. Really either one would work, but I'm just going to go with that. You can see I have 2 spine joints here, and there's only one here, so we're just gonna use this one and say forget that one. Double click left arm, double click this. Alright, boom, boom, boom. That's pretty good. And then we have this head here, so I'll double click the head and double click that. Yay! And you can see we've got a little checkbox saying it's all good. Alright, so that's not going to really do anything at the moment. Now what we want to do is actually apply it. So we've now created character 2. Go back to character 1, which is our actual dude. Okay. And what you'll notice now is that before we had control rig and we had stance, now we have character 2. We can apply character 2 to this guy. And you're going to see, if I hit play, that voila, the animation is now on him. Now here's the problem though. There's no actual keys. There are keys, but it's merely a reference from this guy, right? It's just because of that connection. I can't like do anything. See, if I select his joints, there's nothing over here to key. Now I could go over to him and do it, but that's pretty odd, right? That's not exactly, and this doesn't have a rig either, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to work with. So what we're going to do is bake those keys onto this dude. Okay, so up here you'll just see there's an option if you hit this little arrow that we can bake. And if we bake to the skeleton, it'll bake right to the skeleton. Actually, I don't want to do that because I want to be able to have my rig. So you can actually bake to the control rig. Dang it, I didn't mean to click on it. Well, alright. Crap. Okay, well, I would say hit the option box. Boom. And then you can see the settings by default are pretty okay. So just selected, all the things that are keyable. Shapes, I think it must be blend shapes, I'm not sure about that. Time slider means it's going to be what you see here. And then some things you might want to change, or I do want you to change, is don't bake to base animation, bake to a new layer. You'll see why in a second. And then baked layers, I want to keep those. And sample by 4. It means it's going to create, you might have noticed before, if I have this guy selected, see there's a keyframe on every frame. If I select this guy, you're going to see that it's every 4 frames now. Okay. And the rest of this is all good. Okay, so Smart Bake I think tries to only bake the keys that you're supposed to, or like that are like the extremes like you would, but I have not had good results with it, so I don't suggest using it. So anyway, then you just hit bake. I just went ahead and hit bake, but okay. So now you're going to see that voila, there's our animation, and it's actually these keys. So even if I take this, oh, it's actually already back on control rig. So now you can see that's not control rig. This is now having no effect on this. The keys are baked onto the actual control rig, which means I can override them, right? So if I wanted this for whatever reason to go down here, and I keyed it, that now he'll drop it like it's hot, okay? Obviously that's probably not something I want to do, but that'll allow me to clean it up and fix all that stuff. Okay, so that means I don't need this dude anymore, which is pretty nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and unreference him. So we're just going to go to the reference editor, select him here, and just hit this little minus, and that will remove the reference, and then he's gone, right? Because I'm going to bring in other animations, and that's not going to be super handy. So what I want to do next is basically just trim this. We're looking for a locomotion on this one. So if you look, I got this first I got this like standing part, then it slides over here, then he does these steps, right? But the first step is him going into it. So I don't want this whole section. I want from here to the next step, and then basically back to where that other one was, okay? So that's what I want. I want basically from here to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. So we're going to now kind of switch gears here. I'm going to go to my channel box. And then we usually have it on display layers, but you'll notice it's just animation layers. And now we have baked results. I'm going to double click on it and just call this loco for locomotion, so I know what it is. And the actual animation frames are on that. So if I actually mute that layer, you're going to see there's no animation. All right. So base animation is what we're normally working in. We don't usually discuss it at all because that's just what we're doing. Animation layers basically are layers that hold animation, like the name suggests. And so one will override the next, and we'll fix that in a second. Okay. So if I let's click off, and if I right click on this, I can go ahead and do select objects. And that will select all of the objects on that layer that have keys on them. That way I don't have to go through and try to grab each and individual every component. It's just easier to do it this way. Okay. So I'm going to look to see where it starts. So I'm going to say it starts probably at 35. That seems the extreme. And I'm going to go to this one. And just to make sure everything's hunky-dory, I'm just going to hit S. Because it might not have keyed things. This way it keyed everything. So I'm just going to go there and just hit S. Then everything before it, I'm going to hold, shift, click, and drag. So it highlights this whole section. Right-click, and delete. So now it just starts right there. And then he does a step. And then the next one is, I would say 84. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to S. You just want to make sure all the keys, that everything is keyed on the first frame and the last frame. That way if there's animation that happens afterwards, it doesn't start blending into it until after all these keys. And then everything after this, I need to get rid of, or I want to get rid of. So I'm just going to go like that. Right click, and so I did the same thing as before. Hold shift, click and drag, right click, and delete. And delete again. There it goes. Okay. So now I got this little clip here, and that looks okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and slide it over. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to hold shift, click and drag to here. And grabbing the middle ones, I'm just going to drag it over so it starts right at 0. Okay? Good. And for whatever reason, we start at -4. So I'm going to put that at 0. Boom. Okay. So this is going to go from, which is actually pretty perfect, goes to 48. It's exactly 1 second for each step. So that works really nicely. All right. So we're going to call that our locomotion. Now we have other animations. Now there's a couple ways of if you're going to do animations for video games, you can do it a bunch of different ways. But I think the best way is to actually, just like when you are making 2D graphics, you make a sprite sheet, put all the all the frames of animation on one sheet so that you don't have to load a new image every time for every frame. I think it's best actually to have all the animation in one file so it doesn't have to load multiple files for the animation. So that's what we're going to do here. We're actually going to reference in another animation and then use that. We'll trim that one too, and then so on and so forth, okay? And that will bake to another layer. All right, so to do that, this looks fine. We're just going to go ahead and do File, and I'm going to create reference again. And this time I'm just going to go ahead and do his action because it's a little bit easier. All right, and it's the same story as the first time. So what we're going to do is hit the up arrow, click on any joint, hit the up arrow until I get to that. Go back to the human IK, and make sure you click None, and we're going to create a new character definition. And what we're going to do is click on this, or sorry, you're going to double click on this. Hit Q, double click on this, and I'm just going to go ahead and basically double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, double click, and I'm just going to Now the nice thing is that when I did this with Connect, I actually didn't have to do that. They lined right up and it was perfectly fine. But I think it's actually good because this will show you how you would apply it to anything. Okay, so that one's all good. Now I'm going to go back to character 1. And we're going to choose character 3. That was the animation we just brought in. Boom. Okay. And you're going to see it's going to override that other layer. But now there's our jump and there's our jump. So I don't know which one I like more. Let me see. I like how his arm comes down here and he jumps. But his arms get all pretty jank there. I think I'm going to go with the second one. Anyway, we got to bake it first. So what we're going to do is go ahead and bake it. So I'm going to click on this, bake, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on it because it'll just use the same settings as last time. All right, and it's going to bake the animation. Okay, good. So I'm just going to go ahead and unreference this guy. File, reference editor, boom, minus, remove. Good. So now he's gone, and now I just have that animation. And I am going to now go to the channel box again. And now you'll see bake results. That's the one that we just did. I'm going to double click on it and just call this one action. I'm going to rename this locomotion so it's the whole thing. Okay. So action. Now you'll notice I can't see the locomotion anymore because action's on top of it. All right. Which, it's good and or bad. So we could do is I could mute that layer and then we would see the other one. But we'll fix that in a little bit. So let's stay on action. And I'm just going to basically try to clean it up. So I'm going to right click and go ahead. We're not going to clean it up. I'm just going to clip it. And then we'll clean this up in maybe the next video. So we're going to go ahead and select objects. All right. So I'm going to see where he stands. Okay. We're going to say standing. We're going to say right here. So 112. I'm going to key it. And then I'm going to hold shift, click and drag everything before it. And delete. Okay. So that's a good starting spot. All right. Looks like he's about to do like the Matrix jump fly thing. Okay, this is all bad, but we're going to keep it. And I'm going to say 207 is good. Or 208. 208. And I'm going to key it. And I'm going to hold shift, click, and drag. Oops, let's make sure I'm after it. And I'm going to go ahead and delete. All right. So now we just have the part that we want. Oh, and I'm also going to make sure I go to the end here and make sure I key it. Just an S. I don't know if I did that already. All right, good. Now, if you remember, the other one ended at 48. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this one at 50, just so there's a little room to breathe. So I'm going to hold shift, click, and select it. Grab these arrows and pull this to 50. Great. Okay. Now, obviously, that's going to need a little bit of cleanup, but at least that clips there. And then I'm just going to do the same thing again for the last bit here. So I'm just going to do it in video so you can see it, but might be able to skip ahead if you don't want to. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. We're going to go ahead and do File, Create Reference, and I'm going to reference in his idle. I decided to do idle last because it's the longest. All right, and click up arrow until I get all of it, and none. And we're going to create a new character definition. Double click, so on and so forth. Lots of double clickings. Oops, make sure you double click on both sides. You gotta work on your double click skills. And last one. Good. Okay. So that's good. Then we're going to do is go back to character 1, and I'm going to assign a character 4. Alright, and that looks fine. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to bake to the rig. It's nice that it actually extends the line too, like it knows. Okay, so now that it's baked, I don't need this guy anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove him. So reference editor. Now I would suggest maybe in the future, if you're working on stuff, to just uncheck them, because that would keep all of your references in there. I'm just getting rid of them altogether, which means they'll be gone. But this, you can always turn it back on if you want. You know what I mean? So, but I really don't care. I'm just going to remove it because I don't think we need it. But anyway, okay. So now if we look at this dude, he's got all the business, and he's idling. Yep, okay, great. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Go to channel box, baked results. I'm just going to call it idle. And I am going to right-click and, right-click, and we're going to select objects. And it starts at, I guess we'll say 16. So I'm going to go here, S to key, delete everything before it, delete. And it goes for a while. And we'll just, I don't know, we'll end it here. S. And then we're going to go ahead and delete. Okay, oops. All right, come on. Stop. All right, so I'm gonna turn this one off so I can see where action ends. So action, I am not holding shift. Action ends at 146. So I'm gonna have this one, the idle start at like 150, we'll say. So I'm gonna take this and extend this to like 500. 500, there it goes. And I'm gonna have the idle go that long. So let's go back to idle. And click and drag, hold shift, click and drag. I think I said 150, right? I can't remember now. Ah, 150. Okay, let's just double check. Yeah, 150 is good. Okay. Okay, so now we have all three of our clips in here, so that's all grand. I'm just going to save this, Control-Shift-S. Alright, so cool, Control-Shift-S. Alright, let's just Control-Shift-S. The keyboard's not working or something. And I'm just going to call this, I don't know, human Mocap anim. Alright, and continue. Alright, so that's a pretty okay starting point. Now, we might also want to do is you notice that we can't see the animation starting and ending. So the way it works is like this. There are, right here is basically like, see where it says wait? That's like transparency. So if you put this in the middle, like let's say I go like this, it's going to be halfway between the previous animation and the current one. Now, they're not over top of each other, so you're not going to really see it. But I'm still not going to see the one underneath this because this one would also have to be 50%, but then it'd be weird. So anyway, that's what this wait is, but we can actually key it using these little buttons here, okay? So what I want to do is we want to key this idle at 0. So let me just see what's hover over. So 0 key layer, 0 wait, and key layer. I don't know what that one is. Okay, so we want to do this. So I'm going to click on, I'm going to go, let's set this back to 0 again. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to click on this, and this is this one here, and this is going to key it at 0. So that would be like turning it off. So now you can see I could see this action one perfectly fine, because basically it's the same thing as muting this if I turned it all the way off. But there's actually these two hotkeys to kind of do it. So I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to click on this, and that's going to, you can see I already moved that over. It's the same thing as moving it over and hitting this key button. Okay. So then it's going to go like this, and then that's fine, does this animation until it gets to 150. And right at 150, I want to key it 100% on. All right. And now the problem is, though, is that, look at, is that it's sliding, right? So that's no good. Can I right click? Is there a way to like, it doesn't let me do that. See, I don't see the keys here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make 2 keys. So I have the one on 150. I'm going to go to 149, and I'm going to do another key at 0. So basically, it's going to be keyed at 0. There's one here, and there's a key at 0 at 149. And then at 150, it's 100% to the other one. So that'll cover the jump. Now I got to do the same thing with the action one. So the action, I want to start at 0. Should be keyed at 0 here. So I'm going to key at 0. And I can see the walk, which goes to 48. And we'll key it again at 0 at 48. Okay. Then I'm just going to go, let's say, 2 frames over, because I think the other one starts at 50. And then I'm going to go ahead and key it 100% on. And then that one will key on. Then that one will key off, and this one will key back on. So basically, we can now see all 3 of them. And we can see the idle as well. So it's a little bit of hiccups here and there, but we at least get some of the idea of what we have. So basically, it's keying these off and on. All right, so yay. So that's good. So I'm just going to save that again. I don't know if Control S even works anymore. Save scene. Apparently it must not, because I didn't do it when I... All right. So, good. So we're going to call that, because this is 20 minutes, we're going to call that good as far as getting the mocap in. And then the next one, we're just going to kind of clean it up.